مغفرة وأجر كبير. وأسروا قولكم أو اجهروا به إنه عليم بذات الصدور. ألا يعلم من خلق وهو اللطيف الخبير. هو الذي جعل لكم الأرض ذلولا فامشوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. أآمنتم من في السماء أن يخسفوا بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور أم آمنتم من في السماء أن يرسل عليكم حاسبا فستعلمون كيف نذير. ولقد كذب الذين من قبلهم فكيف كان نكير. أولم يروا إلى الطير فوقهم صافات ويقبضن ما يمسكهن إلا الرحمن إنه بكل شيء بصير. أمن هذا الذي هو جند لكم ينصركم من دون الرحمن إن الكافرون إلا في غرور. أمن هذا الذي يرزقكم إن أمسك رزقه بل لجوا في عتو ونفور. أفمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أمن يمشي سويا على صراط مستقيم. قل هو الذي أنشأكم وجعل لكم السمع والأبصار والأفئدة قليلا ما تشكرون. قل هو الذي زرعكم في الأرض وإليه تحشرون. ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين. قل إنما العلم عند الله وإنما أنا نذير مبين. فلما رآه زلفة سيئت وجوه الذين كفروا وقيل هذا الذي كنتم به تدعون. قل أفرأيتم إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم. قل هو الرحمن آمنا به وعليه توكلنا فستعلمون من هو في ضلال مبين. قل أرأيتم إن أصبح مأواكم غورا فمن يأتكم بماء معين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد.
Thank you, Brother Hassan, for reciting Surah Mulk. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you all for everyone who is here on time. Inshallah, without further ado, I will just give a brief introduction to Sheikh Hussein Mekki, who has been here many times before. Sheikh Mekki is originally, Sheikh Hussein al-Mekki, is originally from Philadelphia, where he went to college and also completed his master's from the Islamic College of Advanced Sciences. Was that based out of London at the time? Which was based out of London, and also spent nearly a decade studying in the Hawza Almiya of Qom. He is currently out of Colorado and also is on the board of the Colorado Ahl Bayt Seminary Assembly, but also the Interfaith Board as well, right? Okay. So inshallah, without further ado, if we can invite him to the member, and thank you again for accepting the invitation to come here for these few days. So inshallah, if we can invite him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. No, it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's over there, but I'll charge it tonight, inshallah. Yeah, I'll be fine. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد والثناء لرب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وشفيء ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I offer you all condolences to all mu'mineen, to all believers, to all Muslims throughout the world on the occasion of the martyrdom and shahadat of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And to the Imam of the time, the Imam of the age, Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajum Sharif, we offer him our condolences as well. I was thinking about some ways to best understand the Holy Prophet Muhammad. One of the important lessons that the ulama teach in the Hawza is to make relevant and connect the understanding and teachings of Islam. The worst case scenario is when people find Islam or they value aspects of it but don't see the connection to their life, to their selves, to their employment, to their way of life, to their home, so on and so forth, to their environment and relationships. So there has to be a very important intentionality where we focus on connecting. And we connect that understanding and what happened and with the teachings of Islam with what we have to do in our lives. I was thinking about ways that we can understand and contextualize the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for ourselves, for our life. Because one of the things that happens is oftentimes very progressive folks tend to take a look at religion and say, this is just old, and it's not relevant, and it's from a long time ago. And what Islam wants to say is that that's okay. The human condition is still the same condition. The things that humans were prone to 1,400 years ago, we're still prone to the same things. Yes, we have technology now, but it's not just, that's not it. That doesn't change everything about who we are, our makeup, our fitra, our needs. Connecting these dots, this is what we're talking about. Not letting Islam become something that's ancient, old, because this is an approach, this is an idea from those who are in opposition of Islam. They want to diminish Islam and say that it's not relevant to the time. So one of the main emphasis, inshallah, over the next couple of days will be just focusing on this idea. This is who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was. We honor, these are teachings from him. Where do they fit into the United States of America for Muslims in 2022, 2023, in this time, in this age? Because unless we're answering that question confidently, then what are we doing ourselves in our own day-to-day life? So in order for me to really try to put this into some context, what I thought was one of the best ways to do that is to do a case study. I thought I would share a case study of how the Holy Prophet Muhammad impacted the life of someone living in America who did not know about the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So I want to tell this story and this trajectory, but I want us to pay attention not just to the story and what's happening or some of the events, but I want us to focus on how these connect to Islam and these teachings of Islam, because they're not disconnected. Okay. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of the Ahlul Bayt, please recite one louder salawat. Thank you. My late mother, Sister Aisha al-Mekki, she passed away on September 21st of 2020. And as I was thinking about a case study of someone who has been impacted by Prophet Muhammad, I thought that she is an excellent example. And when I tell you some more about her and what she took from Islam, it really will help us to understand. So what I don't want to just do is just tell you some hadith and fada'il of Rasulullah, and we say, wah, 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 mashallah, it's amazing, it's beautiful. But then what do I do? What am I doing? What are my children doing? How does that translate into my life? Because if it just stays in my head as fada'il and I enjoy it, but it doesn't become anything more, then I have not understood the fada'il of Rasulullah. I have not understood his teachings. I've missed it completely if it doesn't translate. Because this was the greatest, one of the greatest manifestations of the miracle of Rasulullah. It's his connection to people and how he was able to. There's a book called The 100. The 100, and it's the most influential people in history or persons in history. And it goes through different people in history and why they were influential, at least from this person, the person who wrote the book. This person's an astrophysicist, atheist, white nationalist. He writes this book called The 100. And he says that he looked at a lot of different factors that in his mind determined who was most influential in changing the world to date. Who's number one? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, according to his standards, was number one. And please, I say this not because I want us to get into the habit. I think sometimes in Muslim spaces we have this bad habit of looking for validation from non-Muslims. Please, this is not what that is. I want to be very clear. Rasulullah was the greatest before Michael Hart decided to write that he was the most influential. He was number one always. You know, we want to be clear about where Allah has placed the stature of the Holy Prophet Muhammad in proportion to all of those infallible guides who have come for us. So his very special place is important, and it's important to learn from. Anyway, the reason why I think that this is particularly important, his understanding of how in 100 people who have come, this book is from, I want to say the early 90s. But what I think is especially important is why. Because when you do a little research, it talks about a lot of criticism that he got for his opinion of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, being the most influential human being to ever live. A lot of criticism from especially Western audiences, media outlets and such. But one of the reasons for him why the Holy Prophet was the most influential, and people ask him, why not Jesus? Why not this person? Why not that person? And for him, one of the most important reasons, I like to just give you a moment to just think and reflect on. What do you think made him feel that this person was so exceptional and he was so influential in terms of changing the entire world? What do you think stood out to him was so significant? And one of the things, and I find this particularly interesting because it speaks to the holistic nature of Islam. He said, you know what? This is I'm paraphrasing, but basically, Islam and the Holy Prophet Muhammad, they brought a solution where they couldn't find any solution. Do you know what that was? They couldn't figure out how there can be one moral standard for all aspects of society. No one did that in this fashion. And what that means is that things that, when it came to religion, there would be a separate thing. Everything was always secular. But to be able to have religion within the policies of society and politics, this was something that he felt was extraordinary, unfathomable. We're talking about the progressive Western world that has to be secular almost. He said he saw in this a way that the Holy Prophet brought a governance which was Islam. Societal standards which were also a part of Islam. Relationships and how they should be, how child rearing should be, respect of women. This came through Islam. The Prophet brought these divine standards back for society and govern based off of these divine standards. This is such a conundrum for Western minds. Wait a minute. How can you have someone in position of authority and policy also have the same position of moral guidance of society? Right? Because when you look, why is it so hard for people to understand in the West? You don't see these things. You don't see a moral politician. It's not a thing. It's not such a thing. Every single person knows, every single one of us has seen politicians say something, do the opposite. Say they're going to do something, well, it's a complete lie. Find out later that they stole something, that they did this or they did. The moral compass is not there. It's all nafs and ego, rampant. So when you have more authority, you would be more moral? This doesn't make sense to people. You would have the most authority in society and you would choose to not abuse that authority. This is Islam. This is the adala of Islam. And when I want to begin the story of my mother and why she is an important case study to understand not just the teachings of Rasulullah and Islam, but how they are applied in this society where we all have to live. How was someone successful in navigating this society? What did they do? What did they have to do? How did they raise their children? If we don't study this, then we have not looked at what we need to do. That would be the exact definition of jumping without looking. Look before you leap, they say. That would be the exact definition of leaping without looking. We want to understand these things, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa alaihi Muhammad. What's the time? Okay. So this justice piece specifically is what my mother would say was one of the things that the catalyst which caused her to want to be Muslim. Okay. What does that mean? Why is this significant? So let's rewind a little bit. Let's understand, growing up in the 1950s and 60s in America, this is the era of civil rights. This is an era of activism. This is an era of people fighting against a system that's supposed to care for them because they're not getting their rights. There is injustice in various aspects of society, right? Economic injustice, all kinds of injustice in different fronts. When you're experiencing injustice, when you're experiencing the harm of things, you have a different stake in society. You feel very differently about society. You know, we were having a kind of roundtable discussion, and one of the people said, you know, it's really unfortunate in Muslim countries, you can't say this or you can't say that. You don't have freedom of speech was their supposition. They said, in non-Muslim countries like America, I could say whatever I want. I have so much freedom of speech. So what a person is doing at this time, if you're looking at it this way, we're not looking at the whole picture. What we have is the illusion of freedom of speech. You have the idea of it. You're told that you have it. But do you have it? If people had it, we wouldn't have political prisoners. If there was true freedom of speech, then it wouldn't be based in a unethical concept. What freedom of speech means, I can be immoral or I can be unethical. What kind of concept? The concept as it's being presented even itself has some issues within it. But the injustice piece is what I want to focus on. When you're living in a society and there's injustice happening to you, you don't feel comfortable. You want things to change. So when we're having this conversation and I'm asking this person who's an immigrant who came to America, their experience is very different than mine. Their experience is very different than my father's or his father's, right? Their experience is totally different. They've never had a gun held to them because of the complexion of their skin. They've never been at the brink of death many times just simply because of the systematic structure of what exists, the institutionalized injustices that are part of this country. So when they speak of freedom of speech, they're speaking of a comfort that they're talking about. They're not speaking of the discomfort. Because when Malcolm X was talking about freedom of speech, that wasn't comfortable. Those topics were not comfortable for society. In an America where injustice was a norm and a part of the law. My mother went to Catholic school. She went to a boarding school. She had questions. Why is Jesus always white all the time? Why is he blonde hair? Why is this Eurocentric depiction of leadership and justice and everything good? Wait a minute. Why is it that when I look at Disney and every single show, every princess has to be a white girl with blonde hair? Where is the justice? And then why am I being told that this is beautiful and you are ugly? Well, Islam doesn't have this idea. Some Muslims have this idea. Islam does not. And that justice piece, no, you as a human being, you're irrespective of the alwanakum, al-sanatakum, alwanakum, the differences in your cultures and languages. These are ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in Islam, in the Quran, is these verses embedded in fundamental justice for all of society. When you live in a society and you're feeling the brunt of injustice, you want that. You want that. You want the justice. I want freedom of speech that means I can talk about the injustices in this country. No, you cannot freely do that and not be worried about it. How do we know this? Everybody who's had a problem at the airport, everybody who's been blacklisted, everybody who knows someone this has happened to. No, we are well aware of the injustice. We can't pretend, it's so much freedom here. No. If there was so much freedom, why would there be freedom fighting groups in this country all the time for so many years? They live here. They're from here. They don't have freedom. Why do they have freedom fighters? There's sometimes a lopsided understanding when people come outside to America, right? A very warped understanding of America or an intentional not wanting to see America for what it is. It's not really convenient. It's not comfortable. It's uncomfortable to look at the reality. It's uncomfortable. Being comfortable is exactly what led to people killing Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Some people they fought against, some people they fought with him, but remember, Samat wa radiyat bi, all the people in the middle, they didn't do anything. They were comfortable with how things are. One of the greatest disadvantages for preparing for the dhuhr is being comfortable in a land where there's injustice happening all of the time. Because I may not personally experience it, I can become completely disconnected from the reality of what is. The reality of what is what Imam Mahdi Ajalullah Ta'ala Farajum Sharif is coming to. That's what he's coming, the justice he's coming to bring. Right? We can't ignore what's happening. I, as a Muslim who believe in Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who believe in Imam Ali alayhi salam, who believe in the Holy Prophet, who believe in these teachings based and centered on justice. How does George Floyd happen and I turn my face the other way and say, well, I don't know why this happened. Things happen, those kind of people usually do bad things. How do I become predisposed to unjust thinking? Where my mind is warped and I can't even look with justice. When my mother was in second grade going to this boarding school, she was expelled. Don't ask too many questions. You're not so free. You're free if you want to pay, if you want to play along. You want to be a good citizen, put your head down, don't ask questions, you're free. Yes, you could be free and comfortable. She was on a bus as a young person, 15, 16 years old, the public transportation. So there you get a transfer. It used to be like you get a little paper that says that up for the next couple of hours or so, you can get on the next bus or so. She's waiting for it. The transfer expired. The time when it expired, but the bus didn't come. So whenever it came, it was late. Usually they say it's no problem because they're late. They said it was a problem. So when she got on the bus, these are real things that happen to people every day. What did they do? They called the police. Right? Now I want you to pay attention because law enforcement, the role of it is to support justice and fairness in society. They enforce the laws that allow society to be fair and just for everyone. But we don't see this example in America, right? Especially for the most oppressed people in America. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to have that experience. If I come to America, I might not have this experience at all. Does that mean that I'm comfortable with the injustices that exist? If I am, then what Husseini aspect is that? What Islamic aspect is that? So so what ended up happening? She says, no, I have my transfer. I pay for my thing. They say, no, we're going to leave you on the bus. Think a bus. We're going to call the police. The police are going to come, all of these cars, they're going to escort a bus all the way to a police station. And why? Because you tried to steal services because the bus was late. This is the level of injustice that was absolutely normal for many people. Dhulm was a normality for people living in this country. That person who experiences dhulm, they want justice. Where the heck is it? Where do I get it? Where can I find it? Why is society like this? Why am I being imposed upon this way? Why is it that when I drive, police pull me over? Why is it that when you go to a job, if my name is Hussein or Muhammad, then I get a different kind of treatment? Is this just, this is the fairness that we're talking about? No, it's a warped mind that thinks that America is fair. That person cannot stand with Imam Mahdi. How can you? Imam Mahdi's coming to defeat the injustice. You're standing with the injustice. How are you going to do that? You're going to fight with Imam Mahdi? I'm good. Not me. You understand? There was a organization that was called the Black Panther Party. And during this time, the Black Panther Party, very influenced by Malcolm X, probably, arguably the most influential Muslim in the United States of America of all time, who influenced through his teachings and words, and so many of them. I encourage everyone, listen to Malcolm X. You want to understand how to live in America? Listen to someone who's talking to America. He talked to America all the time, every speech. We can understand a lot about what society needs. If we understand the role of Muslims, right? Unfortunately, a lot of times with migration in the Muslim world, it has to do with some kind of, either there's something that's really improving in my life standard, or it's for the sake of sharing this religion and this deen and propagating it. For many people, when we come to America, if you're immigrating into America, there's a goal of propagating religion for, I want to say, for less than 1% of the people. That's not even usually on the radar for many people as an idea or something that I should do. So what does that mean? That means that I'm focused on my life and my comforts. When I'm focused on my life and my comforts, where my life is may be very different from other people. Those people may be followers of the Imam. Those people may be mu'mineen, but I may be disconnected from them because of where I am in the social stratosphere. So I may be distant from the people at the bottom. Think about why the Holy Prophet Muhammad would sit with people who are poor. He's trying to teach us a lesson to learn. He was from a more dignified maybe tribe in society. But still, he's taught people, no, even if you feel dignified socially, you still sit with the people who are needy. The Black Panther Party was an organization that saw some social injustices and said, we're going to do a few things. We're going to give food to people in the black and brown communities that are not getting basic breakfast. Children that are not getting access, we're going to have a breakfast program. Feed their stomachs and their minds. We're going to teach them about politics. You're a young person, you can come and learn, how does a society work? Is it really just a Democrat, Republic, and you pick one and you do the best you can? Is this the reality? Is there more to it than this? How is it that there's certain things that are always the same, certain policies that are always the same, certain people that are always getting the brunt of the abuse of the system? It's continuous. So what is being done about that? So they were educating the society about that, the Black Panther Party, and they also were armed. This is what made them dangerous. So pay attention, because the first reason, the first impact, I look at three different aspects of this case study of how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so influential in terms of the practice of Islam. For in my mother's case, as I'm sharing her story. We say loud salawat. The first piece is intellectual. The connection to the Islam and the Prophet, I believe, was an intellectual connection. This understanding. Right? There are some things we believe that are part of us from a fitri standpoint. Right? If you want to understand fitra, or the innate nature of every human being, I like to use an idea where we think about, we suppose in our mind that there's no religion. We fathom mentally there's no Christianity, no Judaism, no Islam, no teachings. We fathom, hypothetically. In this scenario, all the people in the world still would understand certain things. These are fitri. They're so essential that even it's a part of who we are, we understand them. For example, taking the life of an innocent person. You can ask every person, they will understand that's wrong to do. Right? They should understand on a basic level that's wrong. Even if they didn't hear that from their religion, they would understand that this is wrong. A very basic understanding of what is justice and what is fair. This is what every human being wants. Number one, to be treated fair and just. This is number one. So this organization, one of the other things they used to do, they were armed. Because why? Because especially in the black community, people would get killed easily. So police officer, what happened to George Floyd is only known to everyone because we're in the smartphone era. We're in the era where everything gets captured. Right? But before the smartphone era, you think these things weren't happening? No. George Floyd was happening every day. Okay? It's a reality. Now, as a Muslim, where do I stand on all of these things? I am an advocate of justice. I'm an advocate in society. Unless I see myself as that, then I don't have any stake in fixing these problems. I don't care, essentially. I'm not following this path of Islam because the path of Islam is the one that brings justice, uplifts those who have been put down in society, and brings justice and fairness, takes away wealth from places that they shouldn't belong, and redistributes it. It creates a fairness. But if you get comfortable, you don't look for justice. You don't look for Islam. It's detrimental to Muslims to feel comfortable in this society, I believe. That discomfort caused them to come together, to be armed in neighborhoods, to say that even though they did not kill police officers, they were armed to show that we can defend ourselves. It's legal, and so we want to be able to do what's legal to defend ourselves. We want to be treated fairly. Basic justice. For my mother, for my father, justice was the most important thing that Islam brought to them. Like, I don't care what society is saying about the Holy Prophet Muhammad, because he brings justice to society and America does not. So it was very disillusioning for people like my mother, who swam through waters of all kinds of darkness, going through these incredibly arduous jungles to get to peace in Islam, to see people coming from other places, from Pakistan and Iran and America, to rush to get to America and love this country so much and love everything about it and not see a single injustice that it does. So comfortable. It's actually dangerous. She was actually taken aback by this, right? So many people have an experience of Islam being an equalizer, or believing that. But if that's not how everyone in the Muslim community believes, then no, that cannot happen. The justice piece was very fundamental for my mother. And she saw Islam as a solution for humanity, because Islam brought justice. And when you think about when I do, or if you run into people who have come to Islam, especially if whether they were maybe Muslim and they lost their Islam and found their way back, or if they completely had no concept and they came to Islam, ask them what happened, why. What drew them? I know for new converts, a lot of them, it's very simple. Islam made sense. Wallahi, Islam was logical. It's one of the number one reasons. And one of the other reasons is justice, which is also logical. Every human being treated fairly. So basically, Islam is what America wants to be, claims to be. Islam says, you're Pakistani, you're treated fairly. You're Iranian, you're fair. You're black, you're brown, you're Hispanic, we don't care. La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, you're good with us. We're all brothers in this book. So she became an activist from a very young age. And what she saw in Islam, they have, I want to kind of speed along this time. They have several different awards, at least 3 different named after her. Mekki Award, because of what she stood for and what she did. But most of this recognition comes from the non-Muslim community, ironically. It's very interesting. Within the Muslim community, we're too comfortable to care about your activism. Tell me about the most heart-wrenching story of Karbala that may or may not be true, that gets me my tears flowing. I'll love you for the rest of your life. But tell me about what's happening in a black community in this country that doesn't affect me, and I don't understand Islam anymore. I don't understand what justice is anymore. I don't understand why Islam came. It's very significant. It's very important. Otherwise, what do we think is going to happen to the Islam that came to America after a generation or two? Do you think Islam's going to spread into society? Is it going to be a part of society? There has to be a path forward for that to even be possible. There was, when for the Uyghurs of China, the Muslims in China that have been going through so many difficulties. My mother was part of an organization and rally that would travel to different cities and go to speak for those. Yes, she was proud of her African heritage, and she felt very passionate about young black children as her children were and what happens to them in society. But through Islam, Islam became the connection to everyone who's Muslim. So she didn't stand only for people who are black. She was there for the rally of the Chinese Muslims. When the Muslims in India are being abused, my mother was at the front lines telling congressmen, this is not right. You understand? Because Islam is the connection to justice. Salawat. In the last, I want to say, in about the last year of my mother's life, she became very ill. She was a teacher and a science teacher. She taught for as long as I can remember, up until just 2020 when she passed away. She was teaching as a substitute teacher throughout the Philadelphia school district. Very active in anything that involved education, and helping. She saw education as a way to change minds, change hearts, teach people, help them to understand themselves, society, other people. This is a path for a solution for society. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a mu'allim. He was the greatest teacher for humanity. And what I wanted to share is that in her last year that she was ill and with cancer, very advanced. Alhamdulillah, she was very loved. Had many visitors, many people. Maraja ulama sending personal condolences to her in the early, when she accepted Islam, coming from a Catholic background. It was something that was significantly important to her. When the opportunity came to know more about who the Ahl Bayt were, then she wanted to go to Qom. This is 1980s, right? This is Islamic Revolution just happened. A lot of people are going to America. They're going to America. At the airport, they're saying, are you sure you want to go this way? Are you going the right way? Everybody's going that way, resolute in her determination and decision. It's Islam. Why do I have a question about that? Who would have a question? This is Ahlul Bayt. Why would you have a question? This is the best teachings on the planet Earth. Why would we go anywhere else? Going to a newly independent country at this time, all of the challenges, that go along with that. Meeting Imam Khomeini, being a teacher, studying in the Hawza, being an alama, in her own right. At 50-something years old, my mother was studying at Jamatul Zahra, taking classes and courses. You understand? She is an example for people in America to look at and understand. She lived in this country just like all of us. She worked here. She made a living, but was resolute in her deen and Islam and significant and moving the meter forward in society. Muslims need to recognize these kind of this kind of work when Muslims do it. Not non-Muslims only recognizing this kind of work. Awards named after her, so on and so forth. A parent organization that loves the way my mother parented, named the award after her. We have to take this pride in our Islam. This is Islamic teachings. We take pride in it. This is us. This is ours. Anyways, sorry. I could go long tangents. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa alihi. In that last year, as she was ill, there was a thing set up, like a scheduled thing, and people would call in or schedule or come and visit. Some people, you know, read Quran with her. Maybe they would sing a song or different things like that. She was a very caring person. She was like everybody's mother. You know, for a lot of the people in the Hausa, Sheikh Jafar Muhibbullah, all of the ulama who were there at that time, they know my mother and saw her as their mother. You know, she welcomed all of them into our home. These were like her children. And that's significant nurture that helps a person to be able to be successful while studying abroad and come back in to help, you know, move forward this message. There's so many different things that inshallah will highlight a few of them, and my father as well, as a case study in different aspects. Today I was looking at the intellectual aspect of understanding fundamentally, and that requires understanding justice. And so justice was this main theme that connects to Rasulullah, because he brought justice to society. That was بأي ذنب قتلت, burying their daughters. For what sin would I be? Well, I'll be بأي ذنب قتلت. For what sin was I murdered? The young girl would say. You know, it was an injustice. The Prophet said, we stop this. We have to bring justice to society. This is level one before we do anything else. In those last days, one of the things that really stood out to me from my mother that I really cherish was that I remember that she couldn't consume at the last months. It was very hard to consume and digest even water. And I would hand her the water, and she will always say, Ya Hussein, before she sipped on the water. It was so hard to drink even a sip of water. She would say, Ya Hussein. You understand? Imam Hussein was penetrating her heart in the last moments of her life. We have to be mu'mineen that never forget our imam, that never forget what they stood for until the last moment that we are on this earth, inshallah. I ask all of you to please, for the soul of my late mother, Sister Aisha Mekki, and for my father who passed away a few months ago, Brother Yahya Abdulaziz, I ask you to recite for their souls and for your own marhumin, for our shuhada, those who are orphans, those who we don't know, who require or need or will benefit from a Fatiha. Please say Fatiha Masbuq Muhammad ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli.
Ya Hussein, 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 आए ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची है ये तो सकीना लगती छाई है जिस पर बेकसी ये तो सकीना लगती है हाय ये बच्ची कौन है ये तो सकीना लगती है आती है मक़तल की तरफ आती है मक़तल की तरफ देखा है क्यों सूए नजफ देखा है क्यों सूए नजफ
क्या इसका दादा है अली, क्या इसका दादा है अली, क्या इसका दादा है अली, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची कौन है, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची है, ये तो लगती। आती है जो रोती हुई, आती है जो रोती, सदमों से जाँ खोती हुई, सदमों होती, पढ़ती हुई ना दे अली, पढ़ती हुई ना दे, पढ़ती हुई ना दे अली, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची कौन है, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची ये तो लगती, कानों से क्यों खून है रवां, कानों से क्यों खून, उफ ये तमाचों के निशान, उफ ये तमाचों, ये जुल्म और ये कमसिनी, ये जुल्म और ये कमसिनी, ये जुल्म और ये कमसिनी, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची कौन है, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची है, ये तो सकीना लगती, क्यों रो के जान देती है ये, क्यों रो के जान देती है, क्यों सिसकियाँ लेती है ये, क्यों सिसकियाँ, क्या मर गया इसका कोई, क्या मर गया इसका कोई, क्या मर गया इसका कोई, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची कौन है, ये तो सकीना लगती है। हाय ये बच्ची कौन है, ये तो सकीना लगती। या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, या हुसैन, अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
I think Salat is in about 5 to 10 minutes, so please take this time to do wudu and prepare for Salat.